Hello, hello, good evening. Hello, everyone. Can I please request you all to turn your cameras on? Hello. Hi, Parul. Hello, Sajjan. Hi, Sumiti. Hi, Menka, Rashmi, Shwetal. Hi. Hello, Madhuri, Manisha. Please turn the cameras on. Hi, Neha. Everybody's like wide awake at 10 in the night. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we are all so excited to meet you, Natalie. Everybody's up at this hour, and look how alert and alive they look.
Yeah, that's amazing for 10 o'clock at night. Okay. That's great. I'm comatose by 10.
That I know. Okay, I am just give me a minute. People are coming in. Just a second. Okay. All right. I think we have enough people in, and if they more come, then I'll keep admitting them. All right. Let's get quickly started. And first of all, welcome, Natalie. Thank you so much for doing this at this
Oh, it's
hour for both of us.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
And I'm sure most of the parents who've been associated with me know you because I keep talking about you all the time. And they know everything that I do is because of you. Natalie is,
No.
I call her my mother from Mother Planet.
Yes, I call her my daughter who lives in India.
Yeah, and she's my mentor, and she's the one who got me excited on this journey of teaching reading. And we both just are together, always talking about reading and strategies and stuff related to, parenting, and I mean, so many other things that we talk about. So we're super, super excited, Natalie, to have you here. Uh, I have got, I can't tell you how many questions have I got for today. Everybody wants to have your advice and your suggestions on this broad spectrum of topics. And without further ado, should we get started?
Okay, let me just make sure everybody knows that I have a son with Down syndrome. He's about to celebrate his 38th birthday, which is amazing. He looks like he's 21, but and he probably always will. But he has Down syndrome, severe ADHD, and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. And yet, I was able to teach him to read starting when he was 4.5. And by the age 8, he was a completely independent reader. My job was over. I never taught him to read again. So that's just a little background. And then I have been teaching other children with Down syndrome, not only Down syndrome, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just the United States, but a lot of dual diagnosis of autism with Down syndrome. So DS/ASD. So, and a lot of apraxia, severe apraxia even. So that's my background. Okay.
Yes. And also, Natalie has written so many books. I don't know how many of you have gotten your hands on some of her books, but this is one of my favorite. And then the whole child reading. I don't know if you've seen it or read it. And this is the sibling book. I love these books. And one book I've given to someone, so I need to take that back. The money one. So yes, there are managing my money. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, for teens and our young adults, because they have no clue. So can you buy a car for $10? Well, that kind of thing. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can go to Amazon. There are many books available by Natalie, and you can buy and get started on this journey. I mean, amazing stuff. All right. Okay, Natalie, thank you. And I'll just quickly get started with the questions. And I want to take the first question that's for the sibling. So the first question is from Janani, and she says, is it fair for the parents to expect the sibling to take care / support her differently able sibling in the future? If yes, then is it fine for the parents to convey their expectations to their typical child right from their young age. I want to know Natalie's perspective on this topic.
I'm so glad somebody asked that question, because when I wrote the Oh Brother book, I thought I had finished, and it had to go through a team of psychiatrists because it was published by the American Psychological Association. They said, we need one more chapter. We need a chapter about the sibling not taking care of the sibling with a disability. So let me clarify that. And they were absolutely right. And I had done that with my daughter. My daughter is just 20 months younger than my son with Down syndrome. And from the beginning, I did not make her responsible. It was just an intuitive thing. I didn't realize that psychiatry would support me in this. And she knew that eventually, you know, when her parents are gone, she is going to be, you know, power of attorney, she's going to be in charge of him. She'll be his legal guardian, along with whoever else at that time, maybe her husband or whatever. But it was so important not to make her responsible. I think I asked her to babysit 3 times in her whole life, and I paid her well. This is not something that she should be expected to take care of her sibling. It will happen soon enough. It's going to happen when she's an adult. But in my work with family, so I was so glad the psychiatrists asked me to write that chapter. So, and you can read that chapter. I think that the Oh Brother book is also available as an ebook, so you can access it quite easily. But in my work with families, I have seen the disasters of families that come in. Oh, okay, somebody, thanks, Steve. Yeah, everybody's got to be. All righty. I've seen what happens with families that are making the typically neurotypical child responsible. It's a disaster for the child. It's just a disaster. I feel for their pain. So that is not supposed to happen while the child is growing up. If it's overwhelming for the parents, let's say the child has Down syndrome, autism, maybe is completely nonverbal, etc., the parents need respite care. But that job does not fall to the sibling. All right. So take it or leave it. That's my response and my experience. And now my daughter is 35 and she fully knows what's ahead, fully knows. I mean, they know. And you can tell them if you want when they're little, you know, honey, you know, when you get to be a grown up and mom and dad are gone, you'll be Jonathan's guardian. But not right now, sweetie. You know, you have your own way to, you like to live your own way to make in the world. So go ahead. All right.
All right, Janine,
Does
so you
anybody
got
have a
your
follow
answer.
up to that, Deepa?
Okay. So there is
What?
there's an Indian perspective to it, Natalie. I mean, of course, our social securities are not that strong. We do have the extended family, their joint family support system. So yes, that advice would differ a little in terms of this context. And it's also quite individual based on whether we have the older sibling or younger sibling. So I feel it can't be like binary, can't be black and white. Every family will have to find their own footing in terms of how do they want to go ahead with this information. With me, I mean, I did when Ariman turned, say, when he was in 8th, 9th grade. um, I did have this conversation wherein I did tell him that while we are the special needs parents, he didn't choose it to be, but he is a special needs sibling. And yes, there are some things that come with that um, tag, and he will have to make certain, I mean, he may have to make certain decisions which will have to be made considering his sister in mind. So yes, there was this thing that was always sort of communicated and conveyed.
Right.
Yes. So,
Right. Now, there's a couple of things here. One is the difference in culture. That's very important. And we don't have that kind of family system. But the second thing that's really important, which makes, for instance, Ariaman's situation very different from my daughter's situation, is Jonathan has 3 diagnoses and his behavior was very, very difficult the
absolutely.
entire upbringing. So that's very different from dealing with a child who, as I call it, has plain vanilla Down syndrome.
Yes.
Very, very different. So each, as you said, Adipa, every situation is unique. If
Yes,
I had loaded that kind of responsibility on my daughter with his very difficult behavior,
I agree.
no,
I
yeah,
agree. And also, I think many siblings have their own journeys. They are already struggling with a lot of their emotional challenges.
yep,
So I would suggest not to kind of overburden them with the additional responsibility. But if you see the child who is grown up, and when you can have this conversation, I think make that call. Okay, Natalie. The next question is from Manisha, and she asked, how to teach our kids to accept all kinds of emotions. My son is 10 years old and now understands almost all positive and negative emotions expressed by others. He has also started sharing positive emotions like love, happiness, but he doesn't understand how to react to negative emotions expressed by a stranger. So maybe a taxi driver yelling at someone else on the road, he gets extremely irritated, or if someone speaks loudly in anger, even if it's not involving him. For example, a swim coach scolding someone else in water. Showing pictures of emotions doesn't help. Auditory hypersensitivity ruled out, and as he's not scared of loud noises. The diagnosis is autism, Natalie.
okay, good, thanks. Yeah, number one, what I've learned from other experts is that are that these individuals do not know how, cannot process. They don't have the tools to process those emotions and their reactions to those emotions. This is a little bit different because, Deepa, what you're saying is it's not something he's feeling, it's something that somebody else is doing, which seriously upsets him, right? So now Jonathan my son had a similar kind of issue. Very upset, even to hear a baby cry would just, send him off the, up over the roof. But what is an enormously helpful tool is in the moment, or if you can't do it in the moment, as soon as possible afterwards, you have to feed your son the words for those negative emotions. You can say, for example, because you can see that he's upset. Oh, this is really upsetting, isn't it? He's going to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. You feed him what he is feeling. This is upsetting. This man was mean. That makes you feel sad. You feel sad. You feel whatever the word is. You have to give him the word for his feelings. And the way you deliver that lets him know, I understand. Yeah, yeah, you have a right to feel that way. Yeah, this is really hard. Do you understand? Does that make sense? We give him the words. I gave Jonathan the words when he was little, so that by the time he was, 12, 13, whatever, and he couldn't get what he wanted, he'd say, I so disappointed, and he would just shake his head. But he always had the words because, and even as an adult, I've had this happen, even in his 20s. Now he has an awesome caregiver who helps him process things so it's much easier. But he would just have a total meltdown because he didn't understand why something couldn't happen or whatever. And even in his 20s, I have a YouTube video about this. It's called Meltdowns. But how I got over, even in his 20s, late 20s, he was so upset. And I just sat down next to him very quietly. I didn't touch him because he was not ready to be touched. And I said, you are so frustrated. And he stops the meltdown. And he says, yeah. I said, this is just very disappointing. Yeah. And we just went on like that. within a minute, his mood had completely changed because he was validated. So what I'm suggesting for your son is validate what he's feeling and give him the words.
Does it make sense, Manisha? Manisha is here. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes, yes, definitely. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
then he'll be able to use those words. He'll be able to say, I'm sad, I'm upset, whatever it is. It'll turn around and then he'll be able to use the words.
Absolutely. That makes total sense, Natalie. The
Yes,
next
thank you.
question is from Shifa. My elder son, 9 years, who has attention issues, has the tendency to rush through while reading so that he sometimes misses words or lines altogether. So every time I have to tell him that he has missed something, how can I help him so that I don't need to tell him every time? And in addition to that, is how to strengthen the bond between siblings when both have special needs of their own. I have tried role modeling, empathy, affection, etc. It works to an extent, but my older one, ADHD, who has ADHD, keeps repeating he doesn't like his younger brother who has Down syndrome. What can be done?
Okay, let's take the second question first, and you might have to remind me what the first question was. Okay, the second question. Here's a perfect piggyback on what we just talked about. So your son with ADHD doesn't even like my daughter didn't like her brother with Down syndrome. So giving your son with ADHD the words, it's really difficult. He is really, his behavior, or he or she, whatever the sibling's gender is, it's really hard for you. Yeah. It's really hard for you to feel like you love him or her. Yeah. This is hard, but you know what? I understand how you're feeling, and it's okay. You can help him actually work through, because part of what's going on inside of him is this fight. I should love my sibling. I don't. So there's a conflict inside. So saying, yeah, this is really difficult for me. This is really difficult for me. Maybe it will be easier when I get older, but right now it's really hard. And that's what I'm living with. So then the mother can facilitate things to do that will help the child with the sibling with ADHD to not only process it, but have some special time away from the sibling, etc. All right. The first question was what?
First question was about
focus. Yeah, reading. All right. There is a super simple way to help with that, and that is you want to isolate the line that he's reading in some way. There are all kinds of ways to do that. The easiest, because I've tried a lot of different methods, I've gotten a yellow see-through ruler that you can put, and they can just move it down over each sentence. That's one way to do it, and you can get those on teacher supply websites. What I found really is the easiest is I just keep various sizes of blank cards, and I cover what's above, what's below, and move it down. Now, it may be that he only needs one on the bottom and he can move it, all right, but he may move it at the wrong time. So you have to be there to help him focus on that. I used that the first time I really got firm with that was with a child, a young girl, 11, who has Down syndrome and autism. And she could not stay on the line. She just couldn't focus. And so I got out these two pieces of paper, and she had a fit. No, and she was knocking them away. No. And I talked her through it. I said, we're only going to do this one time. If you don't like it, I'm never going to do it again. Okay. So I did it with her. It helped her so much that every session after that, she wouldn't read without those two pieces of paper down. All right. So it was her insistence. So however you can, you need to give them visual help, however you want to do that. Okay. Is that?
Yes, Natalie.
Yes.
Do you think a pointer might also help?
Oh, I also, that's core to my whole child reading method is the child has, or the reader has a pointer. It's an unsharpened pencil and they're tapping with the eraser part. And the teacher has an unsharpened pencil and is tapping along. So you're both tapping along. So what is so easy in teaching is, let's say he skips a word. Your eraser doesn't move. You stay on the word that was missed and you just tap it until till he gets back on it. That's a super simple way, and you don't need to use your mouth. You don't need to nag. You don't need to say anything.
Yeah. Nag.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Okay. Right.
Oh, and also let me just also add that the pointer can be just totally fun. It can be Christmas time, it can be football, it can be whatever, because the pencils are made with all these fun designs on it. That is so preferable to mom sticking her finger on the word. No, we do not want fingers in our face. So that's another reason for using these unsharpened pencils. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So parents, I mean, you can order a pointer. They're available on Amazon. They're super cheap, and you can make something from your own materials as well. Okay. Thank you, Natalie. The next question is from Surekha.
All right. One other thing.
Yeah. She
I
asked.
just thought of something.
Yes, please.
The chat. Well, hold on a sec. I forgot to add something to the last question. If a child with autism uses the pointer, or a child with Down syndrome uses the pointer as the stimming tool, nah, they don't get to use a pointer. They get to use their finger, and mom or the teacher uses the eraser part of the pointer, because that just stops teaching. And some of our kids will just try to use it as a stimming tool. Okay?
Okay. Sure.
All right, now go ahead.
Yes, the next question is, how and what should we explain to younger siblings and classmates about the elder differently abled child? When child is saying strictly no for, okay, so there are three questions. So first is, how and what should we explain to younger sibling when you have a older child, differently abled child?
All right, your sound was breaking up and I didn't actually hear the whole question. So just say that again.
Yeah, so this question is from Surekha. She has an older daughter, about 10, with Down syndrome, and she wants to know how and what should she explain to the younger sibling and the classmates about the disability.
For the younger sibling, just get the book over. This gives you guidance for the whole thing. But I would keep it to a minimum. I would not go into elaborate explanations. You can just briefly explain the disability, and the disability is not going to go away. You will grow up and you will get, you will develop and you'll start doing all of these things, and it's not going to be quite the same with your sibling. We're doing the best we can for her or him, but it will be very different. And this is so important, you are just as special as the special needs sibling, because my daughter, even in her 30s, is dealing with that. I'm not as special. Oh my gosh, yes you are. Yes you are. Yes you are. You are so special and so unique. And I'm going to be treating you one way, and I'm going to be treating the sibling a different way, because that's what good parents do anyway. It doesn't matter what the personality, with all the personality differences. But I would keep it light. I would keep it to a minimum. As far as the class goes, there are so many books out there on like even a picture book, the teacher reading a picture book to the class, for example. There's so many good books out there that are written for children to explain this difference.
Yes, and Surekha, I think I did share some of these resources with you when you were going to present it in Arya's class. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Natalie, the next question is, when child is saying strictly no for any work, what should we do? How can we increase the patience? I think she's asking about the parent. So yeah, that would probably be, everyone would be asking.
That was my son's first word. It was not mama. It was no. Age 2. No. I'm a no expert, you know? Okay. Um, my life, he rejected everything. I couldn't teach him anything at age 2. It was just no, no. Everything was no. If I even tried to stack little alphabet blocks in front of him, he'd just turn away, right? It was just no. And at that point, we went to the Option Institute in the eastern part of the United States and spent a week getting trained by these experts in they were experts in autism in particular, but it totally applied to my son. What turned everything around was 2 things. Number 1, you can still use the method I was talking about before, like, this is really hard, isn't it? You just really don't feel like doing this, do you? No. Well, do you want to watch Minions or whatever it is? Well, then, okay, you can watch Minions. First, we're going to do this, then you're going to watch Minions. Whoa! Whatever. Now, in my parenting book, Down Syndrome Parenting 101, I have 2 full chapters on noncompliance. It's full of techniques. You will hopefully not run out of trying all these different techniques, all right? So basic, I'm going to point you to that, and that is definitely available as an ebook. So, and there are 2 chapters, and one is called Born to Rule, and the other chapter, because they're born to rule. That's what they think, right? I just say no to everything. And then the other chapter is the non-compliance face-off. Okay, so I would suggest reading those 2 chapters in the book, using your validation of what they're feeling. Like, oh, this is too hard, isn't it? Oh, let's see now, what can we do to make it easier? And I just put up a new Instagram video on that exact thing, that put it up yesterday morning. Instagram is at Natalie Hale Special Reads. All right. So it's when it comes to learning, I talk in that video about fear of failure. I call it FOF syndrome, because if our kids sense that they're just not going to be able to do this, then they're not going to even try. All right, but you're talking about a more general no. It's just no across the board. So back to this Option Institute, what we learned and what turned things completely around even at age 2 with Jonathan was, we learned to go into his world, because they had actually healed their son of autism, of severe autism. And when I met their son, he had just come back from computer camp, and today he's a big mucky muck, whatever, and has authored books. But what we learned was, don't fight him. Don't try to bring him into your world. Like, I need you to cooperate. I need you to do da, 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 da. Instead, we went into his world, and it completely changed things around. For example, the very first experiment I did after going to the Option Institute and getting this training was, I would sit, he was just 2, and I was trying to teach him the alphabet, right? And he turned away, and he found a little spot in the wall that was sort of like a hole, and he put his finger in it, and he perseverated, and that was the end of it. So he sucked on his tongue, and he kept kept his finger in the hole. I joined him. I found another hole right next to him, and I did the exact same thing. Bam! It stopped him cold, and he said, no, like, this is my thing. Don't you do that. I said, I like it. I'm doing this because I like it. That was it. Going into his world, joining him, changed everything. And then he was open to learning. So I wasn't disapproving and saying, no, 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 you got to come over to my world and do what I say. Okay, does that make sense? Am I getting the point across?
Yes, yes, Natalie. And if you could also quickly talk a little about your sandwich method of parenting. I really like that, and that does work, parents. I'll give you what you want. If you give me what I want, remember, I'll give you what you want. So
right. Right. Okay. So yeah, I mentioned that just briefly a little while ago, but let's get more specific, like Deepa's asking. All right. So let's say they love the movie Frozen. All right. Hey, sweetie, you want to watch Frozen? Woo! Okay, now at that point, we have to realize that all the neuromodulators are starting to really rock. So all kinds of really wonderful things are happening with cooperation up here because they're looking forward to this. And you say, you do? You want to watch it? I think that's a great idea. You can watch Frozen first. We're going to do our reading session. All right? Okay, so then they start going, and the energy starts going down. And you say, and then you're going to watch Frozen. So it's an ABA, not our usual ABA or AZA. They don't want to do the middle one, all right? But you first get them rocking and get the cooperation going with the thought that, oh, I really want to do that. Oh, I've got to do this. And then I'm going to do that. All right, does that make sense? But that's just one of maybe
Yes.
a dozen techniques. And the reason I wrote so many techniques is that I needed them all because our kids are really smart and they're savvy. And you try one method for a little while and then it doesn't work and it works and then it doesn't work anymore. And then you have to try another one and until they age out and they get more cooperative. There was one parenting book I read that said use a whistle. You know what it was? Yeah, same word. Okay. So, well, I would put him in timeout in his little teeny, little child chair, and he had to sit for 2 minutes or whatever. And then I'd blow the whistle, which meant he could get out. That worked only twice because the second time I did it, I had him in the chair and, I'm watching the clock and he turned around. And he said, come on, Mom, blow it. I said, okay, that doesn't work anymore. Forget it.
But the AZA technique, parents, it's tried and tested, not just by me, but many parents. It's pretty amazing. You can read about it or you can try it out. We've just explained it. Okay. The next question, Natalie, is from Sajjan, and it's along the same lines. How to control our anger and frustration when the child is not performing or not listening to us?
All right, let me give you an example. Part of what I realized, Jonathan was 13 or so and so rude. I would knock on his door for privacy, right? You respect his, teenagehood. And I'd open and he'd just growl like a lion or something. No words, he would just growl, even though he was verbal. And this happened over and over and over. And then I started thinking, our kids, their body language is so strong. If they are disappointed, you get this, right? All right. And it occurred to me, he doesn't know what I'm feeling. He doesn't know what I'm feeling. So what we all try to do as parents is we want to be saints. We're going to be so patient. We're just going to be endlessly patient. And then one day we explode like a volcano because of what we're feeling. All right. So I realized Jonathan doesn't understand what I'm feeling. And he shows it physically, with this whole thing. What would happen if I showed it physically? So I did an experiment which worked beautifully. So the next time, before I knocked on his door to tell him it was time for chores or whatever, I put this brilliant smile on my face, like I was the happiest person in the world. And I knocked and I opened I had the timing had to be perfect. So as I opened the door, he growled at me and I went, oh, just like that. And he said, I'm sorry. And that was the end of the growling thing. He didn't understand how it was affecting me. So as parents, before we get to the anger part and the exploding part, we can verbalize, I feel really sad when you do that. It really upsets me. And then just wait. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I think they do need this this physical show of love as well as your emotions. And I think this really works across the board. I do communicate whenever I'm feeling a certain way because of whatever Arshia does. And I say, because you didn't do it, I mean, I wanted you to do it because you didn't do it. Now I'm just sad. I'm
Right.
not
Right.
happy. And then I get immediate responses to, I'm sorry, I will do it. Or she'll come and hug me and she would try to kind of talk.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They need to be able, they don't read us as well as we read them. All right. So we have to make it clear verbally before we're angry, verbally and physically, like you said. Yeah. Yeah. If you watch them and how they express their feelings, yeah, it's very physical.
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you, Natalie. And another sibling question is, when my wife is working with my son, my younger daughter constantly keeps annoying and doesn't allow my wife to do anything. How to deal with such situations? So the younger
Right.
daughter is neurotypical and son is
Because pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. You're always paying attention to him. Pay attention to me. All right. So that needs to be talked through ahead of time. And she needs to have equal attention. And I'm not talking about equal minutes, but equal attention, feeling valued. Like, sweetie, I'm going to work with your brother right now, but then I'm going to be with you. What would you like to do with mom? What do you want to do? So let's do something really special. You understand what I mean? And then the attitude changes because she doesn't understand her value. Look, you're spending all this time with him. What about me? Okay, you're teaching him. How about teaching me? Maybe I want to learn art or whatever it is. All right.
And exactly
You have to be prepared. You have to prepare them ahead of time. It does not work to try to deal with that in the moment. It doesn't work.
Sajjan, does it answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Natalie, the next question is from Ashima. Ashima has a 16-year-old son. And her question is, as child's age increases, the difficulty of memorizing can be improved it's a question. Can the ability of memorizing be improved at or above 16 years of age? And the fast flash method of teaching, will it be effective throughout the lifetime for reading? So
yes. That's the second question. Absolutely, yes. That doesn't change because it involves interacting with the right hemisphere of the brain, and the right hemisphere of the brain wakes up with the speed. That's one thing. And then long-term storage is in that hemisphere. That enables the getting into the alpha state where long-term memory is stored. Now, the other question, it's very important for everybody to understand our kids do not plateau. They do not plateau. That never happens. Memory, all the abilities, as long as they're getting input, that just continues to grow. And I see this with my 38-year-old son who got he's in his own apartment. No, his house. He's in his own house with a caregiver. They have a shared living agreement, and the caregiver is paid by the state, and he was very lucky to get vouchers for that. All right. This caregiver is probably one of the most patient people on earth, much more patient than mom is. And he doesn't have the background, and he has brought Jonathan so far in developing his calmness, in developing his sociability. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. No, they do not plateau. One of the moms on Facebook who keeps putting up all these pictures of her 35-year-old daughter, whose name is also Natalie, with Down syndrome, who never learned to read. Now she's using my program and she's reading, and she wants to read for hours a day. She's 35. She never had that input. Now she's got it. No, it never ends. as long as you keep putting in, expanding, giving them stimulation of some kind. Doesn't have to be you, whoever it is.
Right.
All right.
Natalie, she also asked, they all say start focusing on vocational functions. What is your advice on this? What should be approach for kids in the 16 years and above age category who are still starting learning to read and identifying the things around?
All right. I missed the first part of the question because we still have a little sense.
Yeah, so she wants to know if she should start focusing on vocational functions.
Oh,
yeah.
And they're just, they don't know how to read yet?
They're just getting started on it. The child is just starting to read.
First, that's first. Focus entirely on that. How are they going to get a job if they can't read? No. For their future, everything in their lives will change if they are good readers, if they are independent readers, and you can get them there. At that age, that's not a problem. One of the chapters in my whole child reading book addresses older non-readers. And by non-readers, I mean they're still kind of at the emergent level. All right. You need to approach it a little differently. You're going to teach them the same, but your materials are going to be a little bit different. I still recommend using my program because it walks them through all of the required word lists in a fun way, but they need input from personal pages, personal books, and modified books. Maybe they're interested in wrestling or whatever is, hot for them. They need to have that stimulation. They need to have that impetus of, whoa, this is really cool. I want to learn how to read this. You do? Well, then we need to do blah, 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 blah. All right. So I would not focus on, I would put my focus on literacy. I really would. Deepa, what do you think?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yes, there's still time. Go on. Yeah. Ashima.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as, practical skills, that is going to come, that will be taught to them. That seems to be a big focus of any school. Versus really teaching them to read with a program that works. Okay, go ahead, Deepa.
So, next question is from a parent who has just joined. She's from Toronto, and her question is so she has her own apprehensions about sight words. And the question is, what else we can do if kids are taking time in remembering sight words? Other than the repetition of flashcards and practicing again and again, what accelerates retention of sight words?
Fast flash.
Yeah.
Do not show them flashcards. Do not, ball. What's that? What's that? Ba. You see that? Forget it. No. They're not going to retain it. And the right hemisphere is sound asleep. We need, if you're doing, so let me ask this parent, are you doing fast flash, like 2 cards per second, 5 cards at a time, repetition 3 times? Okay, that's Rashmi.
Are you here? Rashmi, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm doing that. I just started like 2 weeks back only. I'm new to this program, and my son is 9-year-old. So
Okay.
I was just looking for this is the right method, and eventually this will help.
Oh, yeah. But be sure you're doing it correctly. Okay. And I've got, 4 videos on my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel is Natalie Hale Down Syndrome. If you go there and just use the search feature for fast flash.
Okay.
All right. Because you want to be doing it correctly. If you're not, it's not going to be very effective. All right.
I'll definitely double check that I'm doing it correctly or not.
Yes. Great.
Rashmi, that's going to work. Just believe in
Yeah,
it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
But only 5. You're 9-year-old. Just 5 cards. All right.
Okay.
Just 5 cards. Big print, red letters. All of this is, explained in my book. Do you have the whole child reading book?
Not now. I just got to know today, so I'll get that now.
Absolutely. You just start on page. It's a quick read. It's a small book. Because when I approached Woodbine House, who I'd published 2 of my books previously, I said, parents don't have time to read big, huge tomes like you've already published on reading. Teachers don't have time. And she said, you're right. Yeah, we'll do a little book. So it won't take you long. Start and just go all the way through, and you will feel so empowered with how to approach this.
Definitely, I'll read. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is from Dimple, and she asks, okay, how can we teach our kids boundaries, maybe difference between brothers and cousins?
Well, over here we use the phrase, "That's not appropriate, honey. That's not appropriate. Appropriate. It's appropriate with your brother. It's not appropriate with your cousin." And one of the big struggles that we all have is our kids rushing up to total strangers and hugging them, right? All this divine love is wonderful, but we need to help them understand when it's appropriate and when it's not. Yeah. It's a repetition game, I think. Deepa, what do you think? It's repeating over and helping them to understand. And why? Well, you don't know this person, and they may feel upset if you go and we get back into the feelings words. All right, projecting how that might feel to the other person. But your cousin loves you, and when you hug them, they're going to love that. Okay, Deepa.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I agree, Natalie. It's a repetition game. Also, I think a social story around a topic really might help. I mean, doing it over and over again, and also reminding them before we are visiting cousins, or if they are coming over, we are going to a guest house, or male guests are coming, just kind of reminding them, do you remember the rule? I think some things are just has to be told over and over again. And then also,
over and over.
Yes, also sometimes when they do make a mistake, of course, they will forget in the moment. Then, I mean, I don't like to correct them then and there, but I would do talk to her later, like maybe she forgot and it wasn't supposed to be done. So yes, repetition is the key. Yeah.
Right. And afterwards, let's say after the fact, you get the social story out again and you read it again.
Yes.
Yeah, the social story is a great idea, with pictures of that child hugging a sibling, shaking hands with a cousin or whatever it is, or just waving to the cousin. Make this real. So these are actual photographs of them in those situations.
Yes, yes, totally. Also, I did a complete, it was a rule, and I spoke to the males in my family. Like, I have 3 younger sisters and their husbands and the cousins and my husband's side of the family and the neighbors, and you know how it is. But there was this one rule: no hugging anyone except for your own brother and father. I mean, even my own brother, my dad, everybody was out of that circle. And
great idea.
No
Yes.
exceptions. There were no exceptions at all. So yes, so if you have to put a rule out, then it has to be a rule.
Yeah, that's great. And what the rule you made was very easy to remember. It's my brother and my dad. That's it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Yes.
No exceptions, like you said. Anybody outside of that circle is a no.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yes, and also all the male members, I had to talk to them to not enter.
Yeah.
Even when she was younger, she would just, out of love, would want to reach out and hug them.
Right.
They would say, you know what?
Yeah.
So
I need your cooperation on this, so don't go in there with yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, Natalie, is from Pooja.
Thank you, Mom.
What activities can help increase concentration while giving response to others, like greetings, answering or responding to others, asking queries? Hang on.
Hang on. Let's back up and get that question again.
Yeah, Pooja, the question, it says, what activities can we do to help increase concentration? So basically, she wants to know if the child is not greeting anyone or not answering questions or not responding to others, how can we help them or ask them to do the same? Is that your question, Pooja? Are you here? Pooja Jain? Okay, this is how I've got it,
Okay.
how I'm able to interpret it.
Okay, so I'm going to interpret the question as when someone else asks the child a question or is talking to them, the child doesn't respond. Let's say maybe it's a WH question, like, what did you do in school today, or whatever. I would recommend, hopefully this is on target, pretty much on target. There's a technique for how we ask a question or how we try to elicit responses. The number one rule is don't ask a yes or no question, a question that can be answered with yes or no, because you're just going to get a yes or no. You're not going to get language, right? But the other thing is sometimes you will have to rephrase the question. Let's say, a relative asks a question and the child is like, you can rephrase the question. And I saw this done years and years ago before I had any kids. And I was watching Emily Pearl Kingsley, who has a grown-up son with Down syndrome. And she was one of the founders of Sesame Street. And she was being interviewed on TV with her 10-year-old son at the time. And the interviewer, the moderator, asked the boy a question. He was verbal, so he could answer. Asked the boy a question. Silence. Emily rephrased the question because she knew how to phrase it so her son would understand what she was asking. She rephrased the question, asked him the same question, rephrased. Immediately he answered. So that is something that we can't teach others how to do that. But if we're present and that's happening, we can rephrase the question. All right. Another one is Nadeepa's very big on, she's got some great materials on the WH questions and drilling that. I also have, I think, 3 YouTube videos on that. And one of the techniques, if you're rephrasing it, okay, one of the techniques is to backload the question with the answer. For instance, Jimmy is eating pizza. What is Jimmy eating? Pizza. One of the problems one of the challenges our kids face is short auditory memory. They're going to remember the last thing you said. Like if I'm trying to teach a child the letter W, I say, this is W. What is that word? What is that letter? U, because that's what I heard you say. That's the last thing you said. So we have to keep the short auditory memory in mind. All right. So Jamie's eating pizza at the table. Where is Jamie eating pizza? At the table. So as a first step, we don't do this forever, but as a first step, we can backload the question. And it's the same, it's referential comprehension in speech versus in print. They can refer back to what we just said. And the last thing that we heard that the child heard you say is what's going to come up. So it's a matter of training, but we need to train ourselves first. Okay, does that make sense?
It does. And we do have these short-term auditory processing exercises wherein we place the answers at different parts of the sentence. So initially in the last, and then in the middle, and then in the beginning, as we process through the auditory processing, through that ladder. So yes.
Right.
So I feel
step by step.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also I feel, a parent, they feel, they kind of freeze when somebody is asking a question and the child is not able to answer. So it's more on them, like, oh my God, he's not answering. Now that's going to be a
yeah.
It's also that nervousness gets transferred, and the child also, he gets that energy that I'm expected to do something, and now they're asking me again, and I'm not able to answer it. So I feel that rephrasing is
because you can ask it 10 times in the original format, and no, you're not going to get an answer. Yeah,
totally. Another question is the same way, same pattern, Natalie. How to motivate child for speaking out?
Speaking out how? Speaking at all? Answering? Responding?
How to make child self-dependent? How to help him speak out? Verbalize his needs, I feel.
Yeah. I'm not real clear about the question, about what's behind the question. Is the person who asked the question on?
No, she's not. I feel
Okay.
it's probably the child is not communicating as much as the mother would like her to be.
Right. And so I'm going to assume the child is verbal, or she wouldn't be asking this.
Yeah.
So the child is verbal and does not need to use a device.
Yes.
So why? My question would be, why is the child not answering? Is the child being asked a question? Is the child, what's happening? See, I don't know what kind of response she's trying to get, what precedes that.
Natalie,
Yeah.
this is Neha. Can I rephrase that question?
Yeah.
Actually, I have a
Yeah, that
6-year-old
wasn't from
daughter.
you.
No,
What?
it's not from me.
Okay.
But my daughter also faced the same problem. When she's in school or other places, she says few things, but sometimes people don't understand or they just ignore her. And then she says, ki, they don't listen to me. And now I'm not going to talk about it. Or
Right.
when I say, ki, why didn't you tell this to your colleagues, your friends or teachers? Then she says, I said, but nobody listens. And most of the time she is not motivated to say. Maybe that parent also face the same problem.
I hear what you're saying. So number one, she's discouraged. She's tried and it didn't work, so she's going to shut down. All right. So even though she's verbal, I would recommend she's got to have a way. All right. My bottom line is we need to give our kids two things: the ability to communicate and literacy. That's it. And love and taking care of their health. All right. She doesn't have a way to communicate that's effective. You got to give her a way. And I would suggest a device, just a device. With Prolo Quo to Go is, like the top tier of a communication device, but she needs a way to communicate to the people around her. And hopefully, as they begin to understand, she will have more courage to speak out actually verbally. It would also help if you let the teacher know what's going on. She can answer, she can talk, and she can explain, but she's gotten really, really discouraged. So can you help draw her out? Can you help encourage her and say, yeah, I'm listening, I can hear you. Now, let me ask you this. Is her speech clear?
No, it's not very clear, but people she's familiar with, they understand her, but not everyone.
Yeah, but right. No, okay, that's a major problem. Again, I would say use the device. While you're working on the articulation with a speech therapist, people don't understand. They don't understand. My son, still, his articulation is not clear, and sometimes we flat out don't understand. So I got him a friend had an old iPad. I cleared it of everything. Now he can read and write, okay? So he can spell. So we gave it to him. I wiped it clean, and I installed one app. It's a big print app. And I said, Jonathan, we can't understand. Write the word. And he would write it out, and we go, oh, you're saying virus. Oh, okay. Because we couldn't get it. It's made a big difference. So he's not so frustrated, because he'll try 3 times to say it, and then he gets, oh, forget it, he says. Oh, forget it, because we don't understand. So that's been a big help. I suggest she needs a device of some kind. If her speech is not clear, guess what? Joe Schmo is not going to understand her. Only her parents and those close to her. So for an in-between step, I would definitely say a device of some kind. If you have an old iPad or something that you can download. Deepa, you want to weigh in here on an app that might be helpful?
Okay.
Not able to write everything. Most of the children at this age are not.
What? No, I'm not talking about her writing. That was just my son. No, I'm talking about her using icons or whatever it is. Does she read?
Yeah, she reads, but not all the words.
Right. Well, you can set up an app to have the words, and she can just type it out. Or like, I am such and such and such. You can let the device talk for her, set up a sentence, right, Deepa?
Yes, and also a couple of things that we did, Neha, when Arshia was in school, and this was the problem that we faced. Her speech came really late. And of course, clarity was an issue. And in the school, they don't listen. They don't have that kind of time. So I
Right.
did give her some vocabulary, some phrases. So one of the phrase was, I am not done. Not done. So when she's speaking and somebody's interrupting, so she just has to say, I am not done, or not done, so that people give her more time. So that's one thing, right? The one phrase, not done. Then, excuse me. So would you repeat it? I mean, she can't say, I didn't get it. Could you repeat it? She would just say, excuse me, or say again,
Yeah.
wait, or just simple words or phrases. So wait for me.
Yeah, Neha, whatever works for whatever is really important for your daughter and is going to work in the classroom. Yeah.
Yes.
Really, thanks a lot.
Yeah, right. And you can write the phrases if you feel really. I mean, you can give her strips of these, paper to keep, the laminated versions, which she can take out. If she's really frustrated, then she can show it to the teacher that, this, I'm not done, or show me, I want to show you. If she's not able to communicate, I want to show you. And also always have 2 or 3 friends who kind of understand her.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was this girl who used to sit with her, and she could get her. And
Yeah.
also the teacher. I used to tell the teacher, these are the words she means, and this is how she says it.
Right.
So at least
The idea of having a buddy who can understand those major phrases is very, very helpful. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. And the needs are not vast at this stage. It's just that they want to communicate and they want people to just listen. So I think some of these phrases, giving them this would help, Neha. So let me know how it goes. Right. Okay. Natalie, one more question is, how do I work on my kids' stubbornness of not doing something or not wanting to talk?
Not wanting, wait. Not wanting to do something and then not wanting to talk?
Yeah.
Different things?
Yes.
Read those 2 chapters. You got to read those 2 chapters because non-compliance is huge.
Yes.
It's huge, and it's going to hold them back enormously. It's going to frustrate you, eventually make you angry. So you need a toolbox of different ways to approach it. All right. But I would start first off with trying to verbalize what they're feeling. You don't really want to do this right now, do you? Yeah, that's hard, and don't, for instance, when I sat next to Jonathan when he was having a meltdown, I'm sitting facing out. He's facing out. You're not, pigeonholing them and, in their face. You're just kind of, musing about it. Yeah, that's really, really hard. Or you really don't feel like doing this. Gee, you'd much rather do blah, 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 blah. Okay. By that time, what happens when we validate what they're feeling, when we let them know, I get it. I really get what you're feeling right now. The minute they pick up on that, the wall of opposition starts to come down, and then you can work with it. It really works like a miracle, I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what the age is. They can be 2 or 40. It doesn't matter.
Certainly. Also, Natalie, one of the things that I feel can also help, Satya, if you're listening, we make most of the decisions for our children. All the decisions are taken by us. And I feel they don't feel powerful in the family. They feel powerless. And if we kind of give them the power to take even micro decisions, small decisions, so it shouldn't be only on mom's mood to want to do that task then and there, and it should be on the child to choose whether he wants to do it now or maybe an hour later. That would make a lot of difference. So asking them, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it after lunch?
Yeah, and I call that the ZZ method in my book. Well, mom's going to get what she wants. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it in 15 minutes? Your choice.
Yes, totally, totally.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Another thing, this helps a lot. It's answering the same question. Years and years ago, I read an article called "I See What You Mean," and it was in a disability solution newsletter. I see what you mean. We have to make things visual for our kids. It makes a world of difference. So I made a homemade card board with a Velcro strip down the middle, and then I made little cards that said play, sort the laundry, play, sort recycling, play. All right. And then I would line these things up. So he knew what was coming. And once that chore was done, boy, that got, taken off the board. But he could see that play was next. It's just huge. As much as you can do to make things visual, and all the idea of giving them a choice. Okay, that's making it visual, but the idea of giving them choices, as Deepa said, we control their lives from the second they're born. They're in physical therapy. They're in, all these demands are made on them, which is why I have these rituals, these teaching rituals that is also up on YouTube. So the minute the child comes in my office, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Which focus spray do you want? Oh, you want the purple one? Oh, okay. How many squirts? How many da 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 da. Lots of different choices, which for a lot of them is like, oh, I get to choose? Like, really? I don't know. So that's a big part of it.
Right. And I'm going to take just 3 more questions. I think we are already shooting ahead of behind the time. Natalie, how do I create interest to him in writing in a notebook holding a pencil? He's writing with a chalk on slate and drawing using crayons, but doesn't want to write on a paper.
Why not? You have to figure that out. You have to know that. What is different? Is it a lot easier for him to hold the chalk? Yes. Is it harder for him to hold a pencil? Yes. All right. So we've got, the pincer grasp, but it's easier with a large object. So you need to perhaps modify, and there are huge pencils. You can get pencils that are big, this fat around. You need to do some experimenting and figure out why. Also, what kind of paper are you using? If you're using lined paper, forget it. With the little tiny lines. Handwriting Without Tears offers paper that has lines this far apart. There are all kinds of options. You have to start somewhere, and then eventually you're going to get down. But writing is very hard for kids who have, like my son, terrible fine motor. So what worked for him was markers, colored markers, with paper that was from Handwriting Without Tears. Colored markers. He hated holding anything. He hated writing anything until I started Handwriting Without Tears at age 15. He had gone all through grade school and could not even write his name. It was a tremendous struggle. Handwriting Without Tears, taught at home by mom, worked. And he got to the point, instead of hating writing, he would spend an hour in his room. He had all these marker collections, all these different ones. And I got him a ream of paper, right? And he would write out all the names of his CDs, his favorite music CDs. All right. And that was his pleasure. It became a pleasure for him. And he would let me know, Mom, I'm out of raspberry and plum. You need to get me those markers. I said, well, Jonathan, how about purple? No. It has to be raspberry or plum. It has to say that on the side of the marker. It became a total turnaround. But pencil, yeah. So hopefully that gives you enough guidelines. It's a step-by-step.
Right. Natalie, how to eliminate self-talking? That's a question.
Oh, I have a chapter on self-talk in my parenting book. Self-talk is important. You don't want to actually completely eliminate it. It is a tool. You can, as the child grows, you can help them understand self-talk happens in your room behind the closed door. You can self-talk. I attended a lecture at one of the big Down syndrome conferences here on self-talk. It is a coping mechanism that is incredibly important for our kids. It's incredibly important. That is how they're processing what's going on around them and their feelings. In my book, I quote part of an essay by a famous educator who, it's very humorous. It's all about self-talk. And he said, there are people who self-talk as they're driving in traffic, and they're yelling out of the window. He said, I think there should be self-talk stations along freeways so that people could pull over and do their self-talk. But let me give you a very concrete example of how important that is. And if it bothers you, then, like I said, honey, it's fine for you to talk to yourself, but that's private. That's your stuff. So in your room is fine, just not out here at the dinner table or whatever. But once, when Jonathan was probably 9 or 10, we were watching a family movie. And in the movie, the main character did self-talk. And he was very upset. And this character would go to a corner and talk to himself and say, now calm down, everything's all right. And then so it was like switching personalities. I didn't think Jonathan was picking up on it because he was in the next room. He wasn't even sitting with us watching it. But about an hour later, I said, okay, Jonathan, it's time to wash your hands. We're going to have lunch. He went in the bathroom, closed the door, and I could hear everything through the door. And he did it immediately. He said, but I don't want to wash my hands. Get over it. I don't want to wash my hands. Get over it. Just wash your hands. But I don't want. And the whole time he's washing his hands, and then he comes out. I'm going, how did he do that? How did he pick up on that so fast? So it is a processing tool, and you don't want to put a lid on it. Just put it in a different place in his room or whatever. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is how they process, because they have limited tools, like I said a little while ago, limited processing tools. It's not like you and me. So that is one of their main tools. All right.
I agree. And just assigning them a place in your house wherein they can feel comfortable to do self-talk, but they would self-talk. It's important to process all the day, whatever is happening. Whatever they're expecting for tomorrow, whatever has happened yesterday, which wasn't according to them, everything has to be talked about to themselves. So yes, it is important from now. And the last question, Sumati, is your question: how to start practicing emotional self-regulation for our kids, and at what age would it be ideal?
Emotional self-regulation. Well, that's pretty advanced, isn't it? Can you do it? Can I do it? All right. Step one is helping them to recognize what they're feeling, because they at a young age, they don't have those words. They don't even know what it is they're feeling. They're just really upset. They're really uncomfortable. So give them the words and let them know all feelings are okay. Now, my generation was not raised with all feelings are okay. No. You stuffed everything. And so you have to put that within the framework of your own culture. But to give them words for their feelings, it's crucial. It's crucial. As you give them those words, they'll be able to use those words, as I said earlier. All right. Then letting them know that it's okay to have those feelings. It's not okay to act out on them. Expressing it, acting out on it is one thing. Acknowledging and accepting the feelings is a whole nother thing. All right. But they're not going to be able to self-regulate until 1, they know what they're feeling. They don't know what they're feeling. All right. It just feels really bad. And then second, accepting what they're feeling as, yeah, this is okay. I'm feeling this because of blah, blah, blah. And that's natural. But now what do you do about it? All right. So, and talking about it, you're just like I modeled earlier with Jonathan being so upset. Oh, you're really frustrated. Yeah. That alone is a modification, is helping them to regulate. You're not going to expect them to self-regulate. You are going to have to teach them how, step by step. All right. Does that make sense? And it begins with give them the word for their feeling. Let them know that's a perfectly natural feeling to have. And then, so now what? Now what do we do about it?
Yeah. And also role modeling, Natalie. So sometimes when you yourself are going through some emotion, then kind of giving it a name and how you are coming out of that frustration or anger in that moment is like, oh, I was angry, but yeah, now I'm not. And, so kind of showing them how it
Right.
can be done. What do you think?
Yeah. And I got angry. Because, and I'm sorry. But I feel really sad now. Whatever. Just like, you and I have been talking in this hour, we've given other examples. Yeah, we have to let them know how we feel, but in a safe way. We're modeling it. It's all in a safe way. It's not in an explosive, angry way. Right?
Yes. So Natalie, you can tell me, I have 2 more questions. If you're up for it, we can ask. Otherwise, we can call it off. I know it's just too late for you. I mean,
that's okay. We can go. Let's go.
Okay.
No, it's not late for me. It's late for you.
Yeah, but you need to get back to your work. Okay.
Yes.
So the question that I'm asking is from Menka. The child is wearing cochlear implants. There is hearing challenges. She's asking one question which I'm looking every day to find answer of with his hearing challenges, how to shift him more rapidly to auditory, basically with questions who, which, where, and how. How can he distinguish between all WH questions through only listening?
Well, number one, he's got a basic challenge. You're going to have to work with that. You are not going to be able to expect him to respond like a child that has 0 hearing issues. So that's number one. Number two, Deepa's got all these tools for WH for learning how to respond to WH questions, but I'm not sure from what the question. Can he clearly hear your question?
She's here.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah. He can hear, but he can't distinguish between. Actually, he is not able to understand the language. He can hear more of sounds. Language is the problem.
Right. Yeah. That's going to take a lot of time. That's going to take Deepa's training. Because you do it step by step by step. Right. And when did he get the implants? How old was he when he got the implants?
He's now 14. He was implanted at the age of 2. Yeah, but he was implanted on a very fine nerve. The nerve is not very good enough for the implants, but we got it done. So he responded to sounds very well, but language is again the problem. He can understand my language with the with the sandwich method, with the total approach method, some gestures, some body movements. But strangers, he couldn't understand. And the gadgets, he couldn't understand. TV, iPads, language, their language, he can't understand.
Well, I really question how good his hearing is. I really question that. It's one thing for him to understand his mother when she speaks. It's another to understand language no matter where it's coming from. So I would question how good his hearing actually is at this point. Because language is language. If mom is saying water and a stranger is saying water, it's the same it should be the same for him.
Yeah, single words he can understand, but when it comes in sentences, he's not able to get it. Single words.
All right, what about if the person speaking, the stranger, speaks listen, you Indians speak so fast. Oh my gosh. All right, what if the person, the stranger speaking to him separates the words, speaks slowly? That would be an experiment I would like you to try. Can he get it? Because it may be so difficult for him to process all of those sounds that are smashed together. I have a lot of Indian friends here, and oh my gosh, it's like, will you please slow down? So that may be a major problem for him. And if he can't separate those words auditorily, then give up. Give up. I just can't understand it. You know, he's going to want to give up. That would be a natural reaction, right? So experiment and have a stranger, you know, somebody that's not mom or dad or sibling, speak slowly and see, you know, like, can you get a glass of juice? You know, whatever it is, separate it. You know, and even with reading, that's why I put spaces between every word. I put extra spaces, at least 2 spaces between every word that they're reading. Otherwise, it just all runs together. The brain just kind of, the untrained brain runs it together. The untrained ear runs language together. All right. So think about it. You know, when you have a baby, you're saying, you are so sweet. We don't say, you're so sweet. You know, we are enunciating every word so they can get it. He's not getting that now because he's older and he's out in the world. So, but just experiment with that and see if that works. See if that really helps him. And that might encourage him to actually keep going with trying to understand the language that people are saying. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'll do that, definitely.
Okay.
And the last question, Natalie. Does having a sibling help?
Oh, yes, I think so. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I think so. Let me give you an example. Even though my daughter at 35 is really still struggling with, you know, with her brother's behavior all through her life. I mean, even though he's living independently now. So my son has a new caregiver that relieves his full-time caregiver who lives with him. They both pay rent to the landlord. And he doesn't much like her. I mean, she's okay. You know, he puts up with her. He likes her okay. Like if I ask him, Jonathan, do you like Jeffany? He says, a little bit. Okay, so, but the caregiver who gives respite to Omar. Omar is the name of his beloved caregiver. She reported to Omar that when Omar came back from running his errands while she was on duty, that he was in his room making up songs about Omar and Becca, his sister. Omar and Becca, Omar, Becca. I mean, she means the world to him, even though, you know, she's like, I'm not so sure. She says, I love him. I don't like him. I'm being frank here, okay, because she's still working with it. Because she was one of and this is a red flag, I'm waving a red flag for everybody. She was one of those children who wanted to do everything perfectly and don't say what you're feeling and all of that. And so she's now stuck having to do therapy at age 35 about all these feelings she had about her brother, or about, you know, not having enough time or whatever it was. So, but he's just singing her name and can't wait to see her. Yeah, it's huge. It's actually huge, I think. Deepa, you can talk to that.
No, I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. Having a sibling is no question, honestly. I feel, I mean, if you have an option, it is amazing to have somebody that is their age or close to their age being in the house while they are growing up and having that bond. And of course, I mean, you talk about the therapy, Natalie, even we or people otherwise who may or may not have siblings with special needs have to deal with these challenges. So that may not be the only thing, but I think having a sibling changes so much in a child's life and also for the parents. And I always tell my son, it's a gift. If I call her a gift, and she's a gift in your life as well. And of course, all our decisions are going to be somehow based on her. But I never for once recommend or think that not having a sibling would have been better. Not even
Right.
a single second. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And mine were 20 months apart. And there was a very different life for the first 5 years of my daughter's life. And then the behaviors really started to really accelerate with Jonathan. But prior to that, when they were babies, so they're 20 months apart and they're 2 cribs in their room. And I don't know what you call cribs in India. Baby, okay, cribs. And I remember feeling so blessed. I would wake up in the morning to the sound of 2 babies laughing because Jonathan had figured out ways to make her laugh. He would be up hanging on the bar in his crib and then he'd let go and bounce hard on the bed and she'd just think that was the funniest thing in the world. And then he would laugh and she's laughing and he'd do it again to make her laugh. And I thought, how many mothers in the world get to hear this as they wake up in the morning? This is unbelievable. So the first 5 years of my daughter's life were great as far as that goes. But then we had complications. We had behavioral complications. So anyway.
Right. So yes, we are done with the questions, Natalie, unless any of you have one more question, because I didn't ask the last one. So if you have one question, Parul, do you want to say something? Okay.
Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hello.
You are looking so beautiful.
Oh.
I just want to know how come you are that much beautiful and glowing?
Oh.
My question.
I have a simple answer. I have meditated for 3 hours a day for 50 years.
Yes.
My guru is Paramahansa Yogananda.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also do meditation. I'm following Radha Swami. Also, that is yes, but I know this Paramahansa wala thing. And दीपा मैं एक सॉन्ग डेडिकेट करना चाहती हूँ नेटली को हम सब की तरफ से पहले तो एक तो थैंक यू बोलना चाहती हूँ और दूसरा एक हमारा बॉलीवुड का सॉन्ग है जो मैं जब से इन्हें बार-बार देख रही हूँ तो मुझे वही ध्यान में आ रहा है
Bollywood. I heard Bollywood.
She wants to dedicate a song to you, Natalie.
तो
She wants to dedicate a song to you.
Okay.
जो भी हो तुम खुदा की कसम लाजवाब हो तो आप
Let somebody can Menka, would you do the honors? Can you write it in English? My brain is half dead now, but it's a beautiful song she's dedicated to you.
Oh, thank you.
That's really nice. No, how to script in English?
I'll translate and send it to you.
Yeah.
It means, by God's grace, you are the most beautiful thing in the world.
Oh, goodness. That's beautiful. If there's anything that comes through me at all, it is God and Guru. So
Yes, and that just reflects. It's there. You're just shining always, and always positive. And I hope
yeah, not when I first get out of bed in the morning. I'm not shy.
You do. I've seen you. Come on. Okay. But this is how I hope we all age like you.
yes
All of us. I hope we get all that positivity and all that shiny everything, that aura that you have. I wish we all could get that. Yes, Natalie, you're saying something.
I was going to confess that I just had a birthday on Christmas Day. I'm 77.
Ah,
Belated happy birthday. I already wished you.
Yes, you did. Thank you all for coming. This is great. It's wonderful to, let me see, I'm going to scroll through so I can see all the, yeah.
Okay,
'Cause-
I'm
'cause-
gonna put take
Gallery view? What?
yes, I'm gonna take a picture. Can everyone please turn on the camera for a minute?
That's great.
Picture, and I'll send it to you, Natalie.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to do a couple of screens, I think.
Yeah. I will do that. Hang on.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Oh, it's so nice to see all these other faces I haven't been able to see. I could see Sajan the whole time because you were up at the top. Chaitanya, I could see Chaitanya. All right, did you take a picture?
Yeah, I'm
That's great.
just give me a second. Okay, one more.
I just took one.
Okay, and we're done.
All right, now let's do the next page.
Yeah, I'm
Next
taking
page.
both the pages. Yes, Natalie.
Oh, you took both pages already. All right. All right.
Right. Any last words before you go, Natalie?
No, just
Parents, please mute yourself, please. Okay.
that just proved my point about Indians speaking fast. Anyway, I thank you all for coming. You're all a blessing to your family and to yourselves. So best of everything for you. And truly, I'll leave you with this last thought. It gets easier. Okay?
It gets easier. That's
It gets easier. It gets easier. Okay.
all right.
All right. Thank you all. Good
Thank
night.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. And everyone, good night. I'm going to upload the recording by tomorrow. And thank you so much. Hope to see you on Wednesday. Till then, take care. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot,
everyone.
Thank
Natalie.
you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.